One of the Japanese Big Four motorcycle manufacturers, Yamaha, has had huge success on both road and track. As with all Japanese motorcycle manufacturers, Yamaha only started building motorcycles after the Second World War. In this video, we're going to be taking a look at the top 10 best Yamaha motorcycles ever built. Before we begin, make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more awesome auto guides. And make sure you hit the notification bell so that you know when we publish a new video. So let's cut to the chase. At 10, 1955 Yamaha YA-1. How could we not start with the first ever Yamaha? Unlike Honda, Yamaha utilized two-stroke engine technology from the outset, maybe influenced by the DKW design that inspired its first motorcycle. The YA-1 was launched in 1954, but it was from 1955 that sales really started to ramp up. The YA-1 was immediately successful in Japanese production racing, and this helped the fledgling concern gain traction in the market. The early Yamaha was not only fast, but it was also reliable and built with quality in mind. Yamaha would concentrate on two-stroke technology for both road and racing machinery through the 1960s, making as big an impression on the racing world as Honda. The YA-1 put Yamaha on the road to success right from the beginning. At 9, 1978 Yamaha XS-Eleven. Honda and Kawasaki showed the way forward for multi-cylinder sports bikes in the late 1960s and early 1970s respectively. Yamaha also went down the four-stroke route with the XS-1 parallel twin in 1968 and later XS-750 and XS-850 triples, but it wasn't until 1978 that the company introduced its first four-cylinder engine fitted into the XS-Eleven. At the time, it was the largest displacement Japanese motorcycle in production and even had a shaft final drive. In keeping with many Japanese products of the time, the engine was hugely powerful, but the chassis left something to be desired. Oh dear. Heavy and powerful, testers of the day all told the same story. The XS-1100 is a solid bullet in a straight line, but cornering at high speeds is done at your own risk. Oops. Cycle warned its readers that the bike could easily go, stop and steer, just never two at the same time. Which Bike magazine simply described the XS-1100 as having a bulletproof motor and T-trolley handling. Well, despite this, the XS-Eleven sold well, and Yamaha went endurance racing in Australia to prove the concept. Even being seen as more of a touring bike, the big Yamaha still managed to win against more suitable machinery from Honda and Suzuki. Consider the Yamaha XS-Eleven as the grandfather of the modern Yamaha four-cylinder sports bike. At 8, 1983 Yamaha RD350LC YPVS. Yamaha continued with two-stroke technology for its performance road bikes long after the other Japanese manufacturers had turned to four strokes. To be completely accurate, Honda had never really embraced two-stroke technology anyway, even in Grand Prix racing before finally giving in and joining the herd in the late 1980s. The RD350LC YPVS featured Yamaha's power valve technology to boost power output to a frankly incredible 59 horsepower, pushing along 328 pounds of wet weight. By comparison, Honda's 1983 CB750 with an inline four-cylinder four-stroke engine made 70 horsepower and weighed 500 pounds. The RD350's performance was explosive, although the chassis technology of the time still lagged behind power outputs. However, it was still good enough for one make race series to spring up all over the world, which gave up-and-coming racers the chance to prove themselves against the opposition on a level playing field. Readers of a particular motorcycling magazine in the UK voted it Britain's favourite motorcycle, which must mean something. Next up at 7, 1984 Yamaha RD500LC YPVS. The bike is 500cc Grand Prix technology for the road. It's not often the manufacturers built road-going versions of their 500cc GP racers, but that's exactly what Yamaha did with the RD500. The engine was the key to the RD's appeal, a 500cc V4 two-stroke producing 88 horsepower, pushing along 436 pounds. All of a sudden, you were Kenny Roberts, Eddie Lawson or Wayne Rainey taking part in the High Street Grand Prix. It was the ultimate motorcycle for race fans. The success of this Yamaha prompted Suzuki to produce the RG500 Gamma and Honda the NSR400 in 1985, but the RD500 was the original and, many would say, the best. Next up at 6, 1985 Yamaha V-Max. If the XS-Eleven was all about power over chassis dynamics, then the V-Max took that concept to its not-so-logical conclusion. Yamaha made no bones about the fact that the V-Max was all about straight-line speed and had seemingly chosen to forget that motorcycles, well, they also need to go around corners as well. For its day, 145 horsepower from its 1197cc V4 engine, and that's genuine rear-wheel horsepower by the way, was huge, as was its top speed of 149 miles per hour. It's just a shame that the steel tube chassis frame had all the stiffness of a drinking straw, but at least that made life, well, exciting. The V-Max lasted until 2019, by which time the engine had grown to 1679cc and 173 horsepower at the rear wheel. Thankfully, by this time, chassis technology had indeed caught up with the engine, and the V-Max, as it was now designated, rider could now view corners as more than an impediment to going fast in a straight line. Next up at 5, 1989 Yamaha XTZ-750 Super Ténéré. In the late 1970s, the Paris-Dakar Rally created a new breed of dual-purpose road bikes. BMW, Honda, Sagiva and KTM have all competed successfully in the Paris-Dakar and built successful road bikes based on their racing machines. But it was Yamaha who won the first two competitions in 1979 and 1980 with the XT500 single-cylinder model. It was only in 1989 that Yamaha followed BMW's lead and produced a dual-sport road bike based on the Paris-Dakar models. The XTZ-750 was powered by a 750cc parallel twin engine, producing 69 horsepower and 49 pound-feet of torque. It departed from conventional thinking by having 5 valves per cylinder. In its 750cc guise, the racing version of the XTZ, called the YZE-750, won the Paris-Dakar again in 1991, while the larger-engined YZE-850 won the race 6 times in 7 years up to 1998. The Super 10, as it became known among fans, is still with us, now in 1200cc form. And now at 4, 1997 Yamaha YZF-R1. When Honda revolutionized sports bikes with the CBR 900R Fireblade, it was clear that rivals Yamaha, Suzuki and Kawasaki had to act quickly to play catch-up. The benefit of being second means that you can learn from the first and improve, and that's exactly what Yamaha did with the YZF-R1. When it arrived, it took the Fireblade recipe and knocked it out of the ballpark. It was the size and weight of a 400cc sports bike, had the handling of a 750cc and the power of a 1000cc. If Honda had shown the way with the Fireblade, Yamaha showed what the next generation of sport bikes could and should be. The 4-cylinder 20-valve engine was extremely compact, largely due to the gearbox positioning, with the gear shafts stacked up behind the cylinder block and making the engine that much shorter, meaning the swing arm could be longer for the same wheelbase, which, together with longer than normal forks, we're not talking adventure bike length, but there was more travel than on the Fireblade, helped with stability, meaning that all the power could be accessed safely. The original R1 weighed 419 pounds or 190 kilos, and the engine produced 150 horsepower. Fast forward to 2022, and the R1 is lighter at 390 pounds or 177 kilos, and the engine now produces 200 horsepower, reined in by a super complex electronics package. At 3, 1999 Yamaha YZF-R6. The 600cc class might be a shadow of its former self in 2022, but back in 1998 it was huge, with Honda, Suzuki, Kawasaki and Yamaha all having entries. But whereas the Honda, Kawasaki and Suzuki were not overtly sporty, Yamaha saw the extreme race replicas for the road were where things were going thanks to the popularity of production-based race series such as the British and World Superbike series, and the R6 was the result. Looking for all the world like a small R1, the frame was as light as possible and the engine pushed out a claimed 120 horsepower with an overall weight of a featherlight 372 pounds. The suspension was fully adjustable, the brakes were hugely powerful, and the handling was razor sharp. The big thing about the R6 though was that Yamaha kept on updating it through the 2000s, while Honda, Suzuki and Kawasaki rather neglected their own 600s. Power rose, weight reduced, and technology increased, keeping the R6 at the front of race grids and on the top step of the podium, keeping the model at the forefront of customers' minds when shopping for one of these pocket rockets. In the end, however, it was ever stricter emission regulations that effectively killed off the 600cc class, but while it lasted, the Yamaha YZF-R6 was king of the heap. And now at 2, the 2014 Yamaha MT-09. The financial crisis of 2008 affected Yamaha the same as every other manufacturer. No money to revamp an aging lineup and some models that were part of a dying breed, with no obvious replacement lined up. Yamaha regrouped, and the first out of the blocks was the brilliant MT-09. The engine harked back to the triple-cylinder models of the 1970s, so there was heritage there, as there was also in the fact that it was a naked roadster. The new liquid-cooled 4-stroke triple put out 115 horsepower, which might not sound like a lot, but it was the way the engine delivered its power that made it special, full of low and mid-range torque to give sparkling acceleration in any gear at any speed. One of those bikes that just gets better with age, along with the Tracer and XSR variants, not to mention the 3-wheeled Nikon. The MT-09 is one of those bikes that has you wondering why you need anything with a bigger, more powerful engine. And finally, at number 1, the 2016 Yamaha MT-10. Unlike the MT-07 and MT-09, which were all new models in their own right, introducing new engines and chassis, the Yamaha MT-10 was, in essence, an R1 with the bodywork stripped off to make a naked sports bike in the old tradition. In a word, brilliant. Short and stubby, transformer-type looks hid a 160 horsepower version of the R1's cross-plane crankshaft engine, retuned to give mountains of low to mid-range torque and a thrilling soundtrack. Traction control and ABS were to be expected, but cruise control acknowledged that not everyone bought a naked sports bike for track days, that most people used a bike for a multitude of roles, including longer distance journeys. Absolutely insane on the road or track, but with everyday practicality from the riding position and Yamaha levels of build and engineering quality. SP versions added Öhlins semi-active suspension, and newer versions look even more radical and have mountains of tech. And there you have the top 10 best Yamaha motorcycles ever built. Did you like what you saw? Let us know in the comments down below. Share this video with your motorcycling friends, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more fantastic auto guides. See you next time.